Hi there, welcome to I Alone Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Sagittarius energy. Okay, we're going to do this 10 card spread. And we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because everybody's at different kind of emotional maturity levels. And Sagittarius is about higher learning and education and, to work together with people in a more just and fair and authentic and loving way. We have to learn some lessons in life, and that's to temper our more worldly egoic nature, which can be being more about ourself, our fear, our insecurity, things like that. So, oh wow, that's really interesting. We have a lot of cards not showing itself. So, the only card we have showing itself is the Mice card, which is kind of like the Five of Pentacles, which is Taurus energy. We all have our philosophy of life. That's what Taurus energy talks about. And Taurus energy also talks about all these different institutions in the world, our workplace, school, friendship groups, family dynamics, and Taurus is kind of the Supreme Court in our own head. We have our dualistic nature. We kind of battle within ourselves, and we've done that growing up in our life, kind of about, do I have more hope and faith and belief in myself and in others and in love? Do I think there's more to this world than just making my life more about me and these things of the world? Or am I more about me and more about these things of the world? What is my truth? And for some people, some people really have a problem having hope and faith and belief in themselves or in love or in believing in themselves. The Five of Pentacles can also talk about lack mentality. Needless, the Mice talks about that those things can eat away at our foundation. If we don't, the truth sets us free. If we were to see the truth, offer love and compassion and forgiveness to ourselves and others, so we can just accept the truth. Everybody's where they're at. I've been where I've been at different stages of life and my immaturity, emotional maturity. Everyone else is where they're at. And if I'm willing to accept the truth of it, and fives can talk about change, the only person I can change is me. And the only person who can change other people ultimately is them. People can be loving and encouraging and supportive, just like we've had loving and encouraging and supportive people in our life. But if we weren't inspired to put in work and effort to deal with the things that eat away at our foundation of self, we're going to keep having these things that manipulate us within ourself, the world, other people, our ego, our lack mentality. Feeling stable and abundant and inspired, it's nice to have people in our life who are loving and encouraging and supportive, but ultimately it has to be our choice because we have free will. So this could just signify that Sagittarius energy, some people, because Sagittarius is fire sign energy and in high vibe, it's kind of about being inspired to wrap your brain around this game of life. They are doing work within themselves to change. They're probably offering truth and love to other people to provide that type of environment for those people to make the free will if they want to work on issues that kind of manipulate them. And then it causes us some of this inner conflict because there's people in our life, the Five of Pentacles can talk about that we want to move forward with other people. We don't want to let go of them. We would like them to move forward with us, but do we want to keep moving forward with people, that the way that they want to move forward, their truth at a core foundational level is different. And it could be in a more shadowy Taurus, Sagittarius energy. They might be more immature. They might be more stubborn, prideful, egotistical, materialistic, inflexible, want to keep moving forward, but kind of being indulged in the relationship. because we're either working together with people in truth and love, just, fair, or some people want to keep moving forward and having people indulge them in their poor behavior. And there can come a time where people are like, I don't want to do that anymore. I've changed. Could we all have indulged poor behavior in ourselves and others in the past? Yeah. Maybe because we were hoping they would heal or grow or mature themselves. But if they keep not making that choice, then we have to deal with this inner conflict we have about just letting them live their life, accepting the truth. You have your way of viewing life, you have your way of interacting with people, things you want to invest your time, energy, and effort into. If you're more about yourself, more about indulging in things to make you happy, or more about you, or things of the world, or ego, or image, or whatever, then go do that. But high vibe, Sagittarius and Taurus is about walking the talk, being who you say you are, being inspired by truth and love. And love is to be just and fair. You're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated. And for some people, that's not their truth. They don't want to be just and fair. They don't want to have to grow up. They don't want to temper their ego nature or immature nature or worldly nature. And then they can't understand why you maybe won't stay in a friendship or relationship with them. You could be their family. Well, you're my family. Yeah, it doesn't mean I want to hang out with you that much. you know, um, this has status or image. You should stay. Well, for some people, the status and the image or the whatever isn't as important as it is to other people. Let's move on. And there could be some people right now, if you never deal with your own lack mentality, you can think, I know, I will just hide with all these cards not showing themselves, that I have all these issues I don't deal with. And I've maybe already had more high vibe people move out of my life. And that's why some people could feel left out in the cold, is because they had loving and supportive people in their life, or they had the free will to align with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature, but they kept giving in to their more maybe poor, pitiful me, or sad or depressed. Those things can be medical issues, needless, but in just a general sense, some people aren't being loving and encouraging to themselves. They're waiting for other people to be loving and encouraging to them. Well, if you keep waiting for other people to do it, that could be a lesson to be learned. I have to quit waiting for other people to be loving and encouraging me and to make me feel more stable and abundant within myself. I need to take the action to feel more stable and abundant and proud of myself. Anyway, let's continue on. I view this card as the overarching reason for the reading. Some people have done the work and they have detached from some old ways of being. They learn the lesson they were meant to learn. It causes them some inner conflict to maybe distance themselves from some people. But they don't want to keep moving forward with that way of living life, or with people whose truth is kind of, more about these more shadowy reasons to be in a relationship. What is the overarching energy of the reading? The divine support card, which reminds me of the temperance card, which is Sagittarius energy. Some people can feel in lack and they're moving forward in life just like other people are moving forward in life. And they don't understand why other people maybe don't feel more left out in the cold or in lack like they feel. And everybody at every different socio-economic class in life could look at other people who are in the same socio-economic class as them, and we can still look at each other and like, well, why does that person seem to be more balanced, more happy, more stable, more grounded, more independent? That's high vibe energy. Why don't I? And part of the reason is, we can know all these different people in the world, And we don't know how different people harness these energies because some of those people, we don't know them well enough. Well, some high vibe people harness high vibe Sagittarius energy, which some people don't know. And those people are more balanced within themselves and they're patient with themselves and they're patient with others and kind of letting high vibe energy of like the divine lead the decisions they make in their life instead of letting their more fearful, insecure, codependent, lust, greed, whatever nature kind of run their life. And that can be something they don't do and connect with. They reject it. But I'm not inspired to do that. It's like, okay, then keep living life the way you live it. And it might be that, sometimes we got to go through these life experiences and sometimes we all got to hit rock bottom where maybe getting out of our more worldly view of life and believe there is a higher truth and justice to aspire to. The whole thing is we live in this world of duality and we can think in our more worldly Taurus philosophy of life. There is nothing else to work with. I have to work with these things of the world. That's all there is. But we live in a world of duality and there's this creative life force energy that people can refer to as God, that we have the free will to align with our more creative, inspired, intuitive, loving nature. We were given in fire sign energy our creative, inspired, intuitive nature. It was given to us as a gift to not make us an animal or a computer. We were given the gift of intuition. We're part of the animal kingdom, and all the animals have their own unique things. Like bats have sonar. Well, bats don't not ignore using their sonar because, well, I don't know if I believe in that. I can't see that in the world, But and just like we've been given our intuition, I think our intuition was given to us to help, when in your core of your stomach, you're doing some things or you're going to think of doing some things in your life. And it's kind of like, or talking to certain people, and your intuition is like, I don't trust that person, or you shouldn't do that. That is not a good idea. Because we normally, it's not like babbling in our ear constantly, but it will kick in at certain times where, a lot of times we live our life and we're doing whatever. And then kind of at big decision things, that's when it's almost like this voice screaming in your head, you shouldn't do that. This is not a good idea. This is not going to turn out like you think. Go home. And, but we got lessons to learn. And that's what Sagittarius energy is about. We all got to go learn those lessons. Are we willing to get out of our more prideful, egotistical, stubborn nature, which is like shadowy Taurus, to admit that maybe we got some lessons to learn? Maybe we don't know everything. At the heart of the matter is the wealthy woman, which I kind of view as the Queen of Pentacles, which is Taurus energy. Are we emotionally abundant? Because the feminine figures in tarot can talk about how we think and feel. Have we invested in ourselves emotionally? Are we balanced within ourselves? Have we offered truth and love and compassion to ourselves? Or do we not think that's our job? And for some people, they don't. Well, I don't have to do that. No, I look to get in a relationship for those things. That's their job. They're supposed to love me. They're supposed to invest in me. They're supposed to make me feel stable and grounded. And then, you know, it's like looking to people to get in a relationship with to be the answer to their problems, which is some people's vice. That's their go to. For other people, it might be drugs or alcohol. But that's not the answer. We're not seeing the truth. The truth sets us free, but we can stay in denial of the truth. No, no, no. I'm not supposed to emotionally invest in loving and believing in myself. I'm not supposed to work through my own lack mentality. I'm not supposed to work through my past pain and heartbreak or my fears or my insecurities or my prideful nature, my bossy or stubborn or whatever nature. No, no, no. I don't have to do any of that. It's like, okay, then don't. And then that would be people who harness this energy in a more worldly, shadowy way that they don't want people to know that emotionally They're more aligned with this, more aligned with their worldly or egoic or defensive or immature or stubborn or prideful or just more worldly view of life. And some of them don't even want to emotionally invest in people they get in relationships with. No, 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 no. That's like the danger zone. I'd get hurt doing that. Do I want to be in a relationship for how it can shadowy Taurus? I want to have a certain status and image in the world. I want to look like I'm moving forward victoriously in life like other people, but I don't really want to authentically emotionally invest myself in people. I get hurt doing that. And some people don't think they need to. Taurus energy and a more shadowy Sagittarius energy can be, maybe I have status or image, or I have power, influence, or social clout, or I'm charming or attractive, or I'll just use my emotions and my sexuality in a manipulative way to get what I want. I'll use these things of the world that I've been given in a shadowy way, but I won't tell people that. I'll maybe create the illusion I was the one left out in the cold. You should move forward with me in a relationship. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Everybody can feel abandoned. Everyone can have lack mentality. Everybody could have been left out in the cold. Shadowy energy can be where people are trying to manipulate people to get them to do what they want in a relationship, create an illusion about the person that they are. Because in shadowy Sagittarius, they want to indulge in a relationship. They want to look like they've healed and grown and matured and moved forward in life too, but they really haven't done the work. It's just like getting a different job, a different friend, getting in a different relationship, but they haven't changed. They're the same person getting in whatever new situation in their life they're moving forward with, but they're the same person. Other people really did do the work within themselves. They detached from an old way of living life or viewing themselves, viewing others, some way of viewing life that they used to think was just and fair. Just like when we were 18, 21, 25, we had a certain way of viewing life. We lived our life like that. It was just and fair because that was like our emotional maturity level. And then some people said, it's time to move on from that. And I need to put those things behind me and detach from investing in those ways of living life and viewing life and grow up and mature myself. High vibe Sagittarius, high vibe Taurus. And they really did detach from some of those old ways of being and have no interest in repeating some of those old patterns and ways of behaving. And other people are like, oh, so I just have to quit kind of doing that, and then it'll look like I'm different. But they're still really, it's just like creating an illusion. Oh, I've healed, I've grown. No, see, I'm not doing that anymore. But it doesn't mean they really wrap their brain around it. I'm just not doing it because people frown on it. But if I could get away with it, I would still do it. you know, because they don't see the truth of why they should, how it's shadowy, you know? Okay, let's go see what else is going on. The Star and the Seduction card. We can all have things that we had wanted to. The Star card is Aquarius energy. I guess I look at the Seduction card as kind of like a Knight of Wands, which is Sagittarius energy. We could have all wanted a dream to come into reality that didn't work out the way we wanted. Some people are hiding that they are more about themselves and they're kind of immature and could be kind of egotistical or think because they have a certain status or image again that people should want to be in a relationship with them. And right now, some of those people could be trying to manipulate someone again. It would be good for their ego, their image, their status. Some other people wanted them to look at life from a higher perspective and be inspired in the Clover card of Sagittarius to have more hope and faith and belief in themselves, in others, and in love, and they don't. And those people were more inspired to emotionally grow and mature themselves and detach from some old ways of being and kind of grow themselves up. And the other people didn't want to do that. So some relationships ended. And odds are the more shadowy people are trying to hide and confuse people about the truth of who really was the more emotionally mature, loving, nurturing, just fair person and who wasn't, because they want to try to present themselves as being this high vibe person so people will get in relationship with them. The problem is that eventually other people get in relationship with them and they start to see the truth that you're not who you say you are. You know, again, high vibe Taurus can be people who try to act like they're this pillar of society, or look at the status and the image and how stable and grounded and mature I am, or my social clout, or whatever, male or female, and maybe play the victim to try to get people to get in a relationship. But what they have to offer people is more of these things of the world, not being really inspired to be. They might want to get married for whatever reason. They want to be married because the King and Queen of Pentacles is the only married through the deck, but it can also be to move forward in workplaces and friendships, kind of social climbing in a way. But really, it's more driven by just how it benefits them. And they don't want people to know that they had loving and encouraging people in their life, but they're kind of a little bit more about themselves or these things of the world. And so they didn't move forward with those people, even though they could have been attracted to those people, could have liked being in a relationship with them, wanted to marry them, did marry them. But if the people they were in a relationship during the course of the friendship, the job, the romantic relationship, those people didn't stay the same. Because high vibe energy is about that you go with the flow. And, you know, again, kind of like the nesting dolls over there, we go through these stages of life. And then we can kind of feel some inner conflict about continuing to move forward in a certain way of living life because it is kind of the natural flow that it's time for us to listen to our intuition, face our fears, balance out our emotions about moving kind of to the next phase of life, giving birth to that new us. I'm going to quit being a 15-year-old to be more like an 18-year-old. And that's all great and wonderful. And we do that for a while. And then it kind of starts to feel like it's lacking. You know, it wasn't as great and abundant to be an 18-year-old when you're kind of getting closer to 21 and you're kind of ready to face your fears to go be a 21-year-old. Well, I think as part of the flow of life, you know, it's to see those things that are not kind of the good building blocks to take with anymore if we ultimately have this dream of, again, kind of growing ourselves to our full potential. And some people really dislike that. They could be people who really dislike change. Every time they maybe have ever had to go through a cycle change in life, they really don't like it. And, you know, um, I can admit on a fashion trend, I am one of the last ones to get on board. Right about when a fashion trend, you know, whatever it could have been, that's when I've kind of seen it out enough that I'm comfortable enough with it, and I'm always at the tail end, right? But some people could be more at the tail end of just willing to be more bold and brave and confident in just facing their fears, you know, really like to stay in their comfort zone. And other people are, and maybe could be more defensive, maybe a little more caught up in the world. The Aquarius star can be, you know, I'm really concerned about how people view me and my image or my status. And if I were to really maybe go take action and listen to my intuition and go invest in some things that I could find is kind of aligned with my truth. Well, what if other people, they're not doing that? And then what would they think, you know? And high vibe energy is kind of being like a leader in the world and living, and that's high vibe Aquarius too, living my authentic truth, shining my authentic light. And, you know, it takes time to feel comfortable within yourself, to feel more comfortable and confident, to live your more authentic life. And, you know, we come in contact with all these different people in the world to help us get more clear about what our truth is and what our truth isn't. And some people maybe have had more life experiences, even though some could be younger, but, you know, they've had more situations in their life that really kind of forced them to get really clear about what their truth was. And maybe some other people haven't. So they just haven't had those life experiences. But I mean, some people could be a 30-year-old and they're much more willing to be more authentically themselves from love and more emotionally mature in a relationship and just and fair with people than say a 60-year-old, because the 60-year-old maybe hasn't had some of those life experiences and they are much more worried about how other people view them instead of in truth and love just living their authentic life, not wanting to hurt anyone, not to whatever. I just want to, you know, it's kind of working through the illusion of the world, like I can't, what will people say, and being so caught up in what people think or say. It's like we have no idea what people are going to think and say. So get out of the illusion of it and live your authentic life from truth and love and walk the talk and treat other people the way you like to be treated. But, you know, some people haven't gotten to seeing through that yet. And so it's being very concerned and always maybe up in their head can be Aquarius energy about, well, what will people think and what will people say? It's like, who knows? But if you go out motivated and inspired in high vibe Sagittarius and in Taurus energy, treating other people the way you like to be treated in truth and love and justice and fairness and character and integrity, well, then let the world judge away. If that's their truth, they'll work together with you. If that's not their truth, they won't. But some people do feel like they've always got to try to manipulate people to try to get them to like them or view them a certain way, right? What else? Main female in reverse. So, you know, in our dualistic nature, emotionally, again, we can align with our more worldly nature, and some people do, and they reject aligning with their more helpful, believing, loving nature. And other people had let their kind of ego, worldly nature run their life, and they emotionally grew up and matured themselves, and they're not aligning with their more worldly, egoic nature anymore. The high vibe people have balanced out their emotions about believing in themselves, believing in their dreams. The other people haven't, and they're just trying to balance out their emotions as they're going and taking action towards these things that they think will make them happy. You know, we either see the truth that love is what makes it all worthwhile, but again, love is to be just and fair. And we can get in relationships with people, and with some of those people, we harness these energies differently. And we wanted a dream to come into reality with them, but their truth and how they want to move forward and what ultimately drives and motivates them. One person can be more motivated and inspired by love, and the other person or people can be more motivated and inspired to be in it more for themselves or these reasons of the world. And your kind of your truth is different. It's hard to bring a dream into reality with people if the foundation you want to build on is having hope and faith and belief and love, and people get out of their lack mentality or bossy nature or immature nature and emotionally grow and mature themselves. And some people are like, I don't have to emotionally grow and mature myself. I have a certain status or image, or I look a certain way, or blah, blah, blah. If you don't want to be in a relationship with me, I'm sure there's other people who want to be in a relationship with me. Okay. Well, then I'm going to let you do that. And I don't want to do that. What else? The dice card, the gift card. and the Bear card, which also says Taurus energy. Now, for the first 30, 40 years of our life, we can be pretty fired up about these things of the world, and we can go look to all these things. If I have this, if I have that, if I go do this, if I get in this kind of relationship, if I indulge in these things, if I have these things, if I have a certain status or image, if I'm in a relationship, blah, 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 blah. All these things that we can make that we think are going to make us happy. Some people already went and made their life about some of those things. And it could have been abundant in a lot of those things of the world, but high vibe energy is being a balance of both. Do I want some of these things of the world? Yes. But I also want emotionally mature, creative, inspired, authentic, loving relationships with people who act with character and integrity. And their truth is building a foundation from love. That's how you build a solid foundation. Otherwise, you're building a foundation on shifting sand. Well, I'm in it because of the fear, or the insecurity, or the codependency, or the ego, or the image, or the lust, or the greed. Well, the reason why that's like shifting sand is because it's not love while you're in it to begin with. Well, if someone else comes along who's got more status, more image, more willing to indulge you if that's what you want, uh, less requiring you to grow up and mature yourself, well, the people are going to leave to go get in relationships with people who they think they'll have more of those things with, because it wasn't love to begin with. In shadowy fire sign energy, they were just kind of indulging in it for as long as it benefited them. And other people get inspired to deal with the truth and be willing to see the truth, that love is what makes it all worthwhile. And I could have gotten in friendships and taken certain jobs and been in certain relationships because of my own lack mentality, for my own not believing in myself, for my being more caught up in the world. And then I get myself in relationships probably with some other people who are in that energy. And they want, let's all keep moving forward. That's like a gift. We're in a relationship with people who love the things that we love. Let's keep doing this. But the outcome of the story is that it's a karmic cycle, making decisions more for reasons other than truth and love. Can loving people get in relationships with people who are a little more shadowy? Yeah. And eventually you kind of feel left out in the cold. But you might think, oh no, I can change them. Because everybody wants to do love, right? Everybody's motivated and inspired by love. I'm motivated and inspired by love, and we have a hard time accepting the truth that some people don't want to do love. But sometimes some people who are kind of immature or materialistic or bossy or controlling like to be in relationships with people who are more inspired by love. You have gotten more balance within yourself. You're less about being about yourself. Well, hey, if they are kind of more about themselves or the ego or the image or the status, and you're not, well, yeah, that's great to be in a relationship with you. You're not going to act like them. And it is them, it's like a dream come true. I've gotten someone who's inspired by love to be in a relationship with me or to date me or marry me or be my friend, even though that's not my truth. Isn't this great? And then in the temperance card, it's like people who are motivated and inspired by other things trying to move forward in relationships. But there's always this conflict kind of between the heart and the mind, because one person maybe does live more from the mind and one person lives more from their heart. And in a way, both people eventually can want to get out of the relationship. Because high vibe people, kind of are requiring and wanting people to be more just, fair, balanced, and they really could like to be a little bit more about them and a little bit more indulged. Or they really wish you'd be more caught up in the ego and the image of things and maybe put on more of a show and be more caught up in these things that they're caught up in. But that isn't your truth, and it's not kind of what drives and motivates you. And wish you'd maybe be a little bit more, I don't know, showy or flashy or I don't know, something. And then they also kind of, we all kind of like to hang out with people who are kind of motivated and inspired by the same things we are. And sometimes people can be in something that seems really great by worldly standards. But if it gets to the point where some shadowy people are in a relationship with a more loving person, that person wants to have a more emotionally deep, meaningful relationship. And the other people are like, no, I don't want to do that. So people offering truth and love to people, and some people are like, uh, again, it's like I would have to look at life completely different than I've looked at life. And I'd have to detach from this more worldly view of life or being more about me or indulging my more immature nature or whatever to do that. And I'd have to become more independent of some of these things within myself and people in my life that I might align with who live their life like that or think like that or indulge in certain things, whatever. And sometimes we don't move forward with people who are offering us truth and love because we're still pretty sure that if we keep doing what we've been doing or we keep hoping other people will change or some people too, the bear card can be kind of seen as like being a loving energy in some people's lives. Again, some people that you could have been in a relationship with could kind of be loving and nurturing in a relationship, or you probably wouldn't have stayed in a relationship with them. But as time went by, you kind of realized where it does almost feel like more of a strategy, living more from their mind than their heart. So people will work with them, but it is for the ulterior purpose of, I want you to stay in it. And but just seeing that the more driving factor isn't really love. Maybe to be in a relationship for the status, the image, but they themselves, at a core foundational level, they're kind of more inspired and invested in it being more about them or for these reasons of the world. You either are inspired authentically to be willing to do love or you're not. And for some people, you already know that some people in your life, you might know some people that are quite stubborn. You might know some people who maybe are really kind of full of themselves. And they could think that, well, if you're not willing to indulge me, um, your dreams won't come into reality. You'll feel left out in the cold. These things are important. I bet you'll come back. And for some of those people, that's like a risk that they took. And you're not going back. Because during this experience you went through, you did see the truth of emotionally more of what drives and motivates them. And it wasn't being inspired to work together with you in love and be just and fair. And the people in your life who have been working with you that way, and the people that you're currently working with in your life, and the people you meet in your life who do that are the people you are going to invest more of your time, energy, and effort into. And not repeating this pattern over. I'm not going to indulge some people in my life who kind of have this way of viewing life that they, of course, think is just and fair. The karmic cycle with the heart there reminds me of the Three of Swords of Libra energy. If there's people in my life that, in my family, in my community, in my workplace, in my social group, in my friendship group, who think it's just and fair to be, that it should be more about them, or that people should indulge them in their more immature way of behavior. People who think, well, I know you love me, so I think I can use the love that you have for me to try to manipulate you and control you. I don't think you want to move on from me, so therefore, I think I can keep doing these kind of hurtful things. And, it kind of comes down to eventually there's Judgment Day, where people can no longer stay in denial of the truth. And because loving people can be very patient with people for a long time, the kind of more shadowy, immature people keep thinking you will keep being patient and indulging them. And eventually it gets to, I've offered and tried to offer you truth and love and work things out with you, and I see you're kind of not interested over and over and over. That isn't your truth. If it was your truth, we'd already be moving forward in a more just, fair, balance, inspired by love type of relationship. And though it's heartbreaking, I wish you peace, but I'm going to kind of distance myself from you. You can do you with whoever else you want to do it with. But out of love for myself, I wish you peace and love, but I'm moving forward in life differently to get the justice I deserve with people who treat me in a just and fair way, inspired authentically by love, who act with character and integrity. And so then I think some of the kind of shadowy people who, shadowy dice card would be people who took a risk. Nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep thinking it's a good idea. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm sure you won't keep loving and believing in yourself. It's just like, high vibe people are moving forward with or without some people. You do you. What's coming up for some of the people who harness some high vibe Sagittarius energy? Maintaining balance within themselves. Not letting people who are being immature or prideful or hurtful throw them out of balance. You do you. I see the truth of it. I see the truth of you and what drives and motivates you, and I don't think it's love. The Nine of Pentacles. Why? Because of the Eight of Wands and Sagittarius energy. The Eight of Wands comes after the Seven of Wands, which can be that, the Six and the Seven and the Eight of Wands is Leo energy, which again can be about in fire sign energy of wanting to move forward with people in a way motivated and inspired by love, wanting everybody to move forward and moving forward with people. And that's like the Six of Wands. And then the Seven of Wands, defending it, and wanting to move forward, offering truth and love and inspiration for people to move forward with you in that way. And some people weren't willing to do that. You have to get out of your ego and your defensive nature, and you have to do probably some work within yourself to love yourself and offer love to the past, to heal from some past pain, heartbreak, and self-limiting beliefs, to believe you deserve love or whatever, in order to get out of your ego, shadowy Leo energy, to move forward in life in the Nine of Pentacles, being independent of those situations that make you defensive. To moving forward in life, looking at life as an adventure to be lived, becoming independent of our more worldly, egoic, fearful, whatever nature, so that we can be free of it to go live our more authentic life, knowing our worth and value, feeling stable and grounded within ourselves, no longer caught up in the illusion, and just living our more authentic life from love, treating other people the way we like to be treated, treating other people in a just and fair and loving way, and letting those people decide what their truth is. And when they show you their truth, that's not their truth. You wish them peace and you keep moving forward with the people in your life who do. And because you were inspired in Sagittarius energy to deal with the truth, you knew you could stay in denial of the truth. You knew you could keep indulging poor behavior in yourself or others. You knew you could get in friendships or relationships or stay in certain jobs for all these different reasons, but that isn't what you wanted to do. You were inspired to be in more authentic, just and fair and loving relationships. So again, offer truth and love to people to work together with you in that way. The people who are willing to work together with you in that way and respect you as your own individual is what the Nine of Pentacles can talk about in Virgo energy. I have my own unique talent, skills, interests, and dreams. I am my own person. And then I want to be in relationships with other people where I respect them as their own individual and their own dreams and aspirations. And I'm looking for the people who've learned these lessons in life about working cooperatively with people in truth and love, being just and fair, inspired by love. And you saw who wasn't. So you have detached from some people. And from the Five of Pentacles to the Nine of Pentacles, there's some foundations and people in your life that you're no longer interested in having a new beginning with because you know the foundation that they operate from and their truth. And it's not kind of what drives and motivates you. If that's their truth and that's how they want to live their life and that's what they view as just and fair, then that's fine. Go live your life that way. That's not my truth. And some people, it's just that, how we do want to move forward, what our dreams are. Oh, you want to live in a big town. I want to live in a small town. Um, you're anywhere on the spectrum of people that can be high vibe, it can be all these differences, and sometimes Taurus energy can represent kind of cultural things too, like philosophies of life or religion or um, obstacles that can be things that people can't work through, and ethnicities or all sorts of things, right? And there too, if some people are more kind of independent, if some people, it's just trying to find the right fit. Not everybody who doesn't move forward with us, needless as a shadowy person, but we're kind of looking for people who maybe we have more things in common with, and more things that are aligned with what we want to invest our time, energy, and effort into than what some other people could. But there too, we can have some people in our life who we definitely know were more shadowy and more self-focused, more worldly focused, don't like people being more independent of even the world because they conform their life to the world, and then you should conform your life to the world, and you could have more hope and faith and belief in yourself or love yourself, and they might not. And some people might be more immature and you're not. And some people might be more materialistic and you're not. Some people could be looking for someone to be the answer to their problems in a more codependent energy. Like I'm looking for someone to love me instead of them learning to love themselves, to be more balanced within themselves, to not make that someone else's job. I maintain balance within myself. And I'm looking to be in a relationship with other people who know how to temper their own fears and insecurities and immature nature and, temper your ego nature to work together with people in a more just and fair way. And I think as you move forward in that way, other people in the world, some of them are sad because some of them wanted to be in a relationship with you or wanted you to indulge them in a relationship. But you have changed and you're moving forward in life differently than they're moving forward in life. And you're kind of not on the same page. And then there's other people who could see that you could, in your free will, you could act in these more shadowy ways. You could be in friendships or relationships with people for these kind of more shadowy, immature reasons, and you're not. And that can make some people see that you're someone they would really like to invest in because they've also invested in people who are more codependent, more about the ego and the image, more about blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to be in a relationship with people like that either. And I think there will be people who, some people wish they could be in a relationship with some of you or even friendship, but they know that that's not where they're at. Would it be nice? Yeah, but that's not where they're at. And and then some people would, if you're singles, there's some people who would like to date you. Some of those people are in relationships, but, so they can't. And, it can kind of make some people see the truth of their situation. That, sometimes some people, which we all could have been there at different times in our life, where we could have gotten in relationships just because we did feel left out in the cold or we were heartbroken. And then we get in relationships with people, and there might come a time where we kind of feel like that, if the relationship didn't kind of keep growing and maturing, that we're in a more mismatched relationship. But some people, because of the status or the ego or the image or uh, commitment of it, they're going to stay in it anyway. And they stay kind of in something that's not aligned with their truth and maybe not just and fair, but more, and that's where, do we adhere to a higher truth and justice? And especially if we come to find out that, you know, it's kind of committing fraud in a contract. Are you willing to keep putting in work and effort to keep growing and healing and maturing yourself? And then you kind of get in one, and some people are like, no, I'm good. I want to keep doing this, and not willing to work with the people they're in relationship with to kind of look at life a little differently, kind of work through those issues that make them kind of defensive to that. High vibe people aren't asking people to do something like against, that's not aligned with truth and love. It's just to be more inspired to work together more cooperatively in truth and love. And that's when you can find out some people that, you used to be happy, or you used to indulge me, or you used to be caught up in these things, and I'm still caught up in these things, and or I still think this is just and fair, and we should just still, anyway, I'm sure you get the idea. What's coming up for some people who harness some more worldly, shadowy Sagittarius energy that they don't see coming? The King of Swords in reverse. Why? Because of the Queen of Pentacles. So what that can mean, like, I view this center one as like the Queen of Pentacles, which I view as Taurus energy. We all could have at one time lived more from our mind than our heart in the King of Swords, which I view as Libra energy. We all could have been more defensive because the King of Swords can be like our self-protective defensive nature. We all could have been in that energy at different times in our life. More fearful of being hurt, didn't want to live our authentic life, didn't want to put ourselves out there, be more bold and brave and confident. But some people could have done some of this work within themselves emotionally, and they kind of got out of their more self-protective defensive nature, or living more from their mind than their heart. And now, kind of in their fire sign energy of self, they're more inspired to make their life about more than just these things of the world. And that's what can surprise some people who are definitely more worldly focused. For one, they could be more emotionally invested in the world and they reject the truth that it is supposed to be more of a balance and about love. And some of the people they could have been in family dynamics, friendship relationships with, could have felt that way at one time also. But during the course of time, some of the people in their life, unlike them, have emotionally grown and matured themselves. And they could have worked through their more self protective, defensive nature. And they did get more balanced within themselves. And they've kind of learned the lesson they were meant to learn. The truth sets us free. And when we go through these stages of life and we do get inspired to keep loving and believing in ourselves, and we keep doing this inner work to heal and mature ourselves and heal from past pain and heartbreak, we get out of our defensive nature and we're willing to deal with the truth, then we're kind of ready to move forward in life independent of that old way of living life. And while some people did that, some of the more worldly, shadowy people didn't. And that's can be what some of the people didn't see coming. I didn't think you'd ever get out of your more defensive nature to emotionally invest in loving and believing in yourself and knowing your worth and value, whether you're male or female, to be more independent and less codependent. You used to indulge people. You could be a very loving, nurturing person. And some people kept thinking you were going to keep, you know, and there can be a stage of life, like, say, you're a parent, right? You can be a very loving, nurturing person to your children, and you can still be a loving, nurturing person later. But when they were younger, you could have kind of indulged in it with it not having to be as just as fair because they had some growing up and maturing to do. But then once they do kind of grow up, I'm not going to keep indulging you in a more imbalanced relationship. You know, if you don't want to emotionally grow up and mature yourself, and you want this more imbalance, like I am supposed to indulge you like a parent would a child, and sometimes we get in relationships with people like that. Because again, you can be a loving, nurturing person and you keep thinking other people are going to change, and then they don't. And for a long time, you could have put up with a more imbalanced relationship, thinking if I offer truth and love and encouragement to people, like they'd want to heal and get more balance within themselves. But then you see they're not inspired to do that work within themselves. They're like, no, I like this relationship. We should keep doing this just the way it is. And that's why you shouldn't go into a relationship expecting people to change. They are the way they are because that's the way they choose to be. But we, kind of in our more worldly, egoic nature, kind of have a hard time accepting that truth. That with some of those people, we never should have gotten in a more involved relationship with them to begin with. We should have seen the truth. In their Four of Pentacles foundation, they hold back from love. They might be more defensive. They might be more emotionally detached. They might be more caught up by these things of the world. And I could have seen all those things, but I didn't want to see the truth. And so I got myself, I'm going to keep repeating a pattern, which is a karmic cycle, over and over and over until I'm willing to see the truth. And the pentacle in high vibe means truth and love and abundance. And, you know, we could have been wanting to help people. But again, we can offer people truth and love and encouragement and kind of keep our distance, not get more involved emotionally in a more involved relationship with them. Because again, sometimes there's people that are in more shadowy energy that they're looking for someone who's a very loving, giving, nurturing person to be in a relationship, and that's the way they want the dynamic to keep moving forward. And you were hoping maybe they would change. They were hoping maybe you would change and stay in it more for these other reasons, and your truth is different. So I think some people who keep sometimes really shadowy people are trying to find more loving people to indulge them in a relationship, and they're kind of more immature or shadowy or prideful or stubborn or defensive ways of being. And if they can find someone else to invest in a relationship with them who so far just doesn't know the truth of who they are, well, then they'll probably keep moving forward with that person until that person does see the truth. And for some of them, some people in their life have already seen the truth and they have other people leaving their life. They're no longer kind of caught up in the illusion of who they are or by their status or their image or their charm or their looks or based on how these people can present themselves in the world. And there's always the shadowy kind of people never want to see the truth. If they're bossy, controlling, immature, prideful, egotistical, more materialistically driven, they can want to stay in denial of all of that. And if they completely reject the truth, I don't believe in love and I don't want to do love, that also is their truth. And they don't want to invest in looking at life differently and they don't want to see the truth. And they could have friends or family members trying to get them to grow up or mature themselves or work through their fears or their insecurity or their ego. And eventually, some of those people are like, you know what? You do you, but the way you view life and these things that you do that you think are just and fair, that's not my truth. And you keep wanting to do this, so I'm going to let you do it. You're going to have to learn some lessons the hard way, just like the rest of us did. And we're going to move on. We'll see you at Christmas, but we're going to move on in our life. And then the shadowy people will wonder, well, I don't understand why those people weren't willing to keep investing in me. They could view themselves as these stable, grounded, loving, nurturing people. And in some ways they can be, but again, it could be where it's kind of trying to use these things of the world like money, status, image, or codependency to get people to stay in a relationship, not really inspiring other people to be more independent and be more authentically inspired by love. And other people kind of listen to their intuition that it's like, I don't really think it's love that drives and motivates you. And some of the people definitely don't like people being more independent. And they do try to use these things of the world and people's love that they have for them to keep them staying in denial of the truth. And eventually, some people, it's like, I can love you, blah, 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 but I'm not going to stay in denial about the truth. I can just accept it to myself. I don't have to tell that person, oh, by the way, I kind of see you're kind of more immature. I can see you're more materialistic. I can see you're more defensive or full of yourself. I can know people in my life that I know those things about them. I don't have to tell them because there would be no point, and what purpose does it serve? Just like when we were kind of more immature, we could add people in our life that wanted to say, "Why are you doing that? And that's really immature." And that, it's where we were at, and it wouldn't have really done any good anyway. So it's like, you know what? You do you. Enjoy your life. I'm gonna go do me. And for some people, there could be a truth that they would have to invest. You have to reveal the truth. The truth sets us free. Some people are not willing to reveal a truth that maybe they did act immature. Maybe they were kind of manipulative. Maybe they were caught up in some things. Maybe they made a mistake. Oh my God. Fallible human being like the rest of us. And for some people, because of their status and image, it's always to try to hide the truth of any mistake they made. Even though some people that they could have had a golden opportunity with to have their dreams come into reality, because they're so prideful and egotistical and stubborn, are unwilling to do the just and fair thing. And some people, because they're very proud of themselves and full of themselves, um, just refuse to see the truth. I think those people can leave, or that person can leave, and I am sure there will be someone else who will come along and it'll be just fine. And some people, because some other people loved and believed in themselves, even if they've seen the truth, that I just don't want those people to get the justice they deserve. And they could think they control that. But that's them kind of thinking. Shadowy Taurus energy is like people who think they're God because they have a certain status or image or power or influence in the world. What they don't get is the high vibe people put their faith and trust in a higher power, and they did not make these people God in their life. My dream can only come into reality with people who are motivated and inspired by the same truth I am. And I am inspired to put in this work and effort to emotionally grow and mature myself, let go of my more worldly nature, balance out my emotions, invest in myself, healing and growing and maturing myself, and being my own best mother, father, coach voice in my own head. And I've learned the lesson I was meant to learn here. My dream can't come into reality with you anyway. And I'm going to go have this new beginning, moving forward in life, while these people keep repeating an old pattern, because they can't move forward in the next phase of life. They can try to make it look like they did, but authentically to move forward in the next phase of life, they'd have to be willing to learn the lesson they were meant to learn. And some of those people are like, nope, that's not my truth. So they'll just keep. Shadowy energy can be where it's stagnant. It doesn't give birth to anything new. And for some people, that is how they want to live their life. I don't want to do anything different. I don't want to do anything new. I don't want to step out of my comfort zone. I don't want to face my fears. I'm not inspired to be more independent and that's fine. They just need to find someone else who that is their truth. But ultimately, they might end up finding, shadowy energy is more imbalanced. And again, the King of Swords of Libra energy is about balance. Some of these people, regardless of what zodiac sun sign they are, they're imbalanced. They're tipped out of balance so much into their worldly nature, it kind of clouds their judgment. And then this is the divine working with them, just like the divine has worked with all of us and the world at large, books, movies, music, artwork, other people in the world, trying to inspire people to see the truth, that these things that they don't work through keep them stuck repeating an old pattern. They keep not really getting the justice that they want. They could get these things of the world, but don't we ultimately want love? But some people think, well, I can offer people these things of the world, or my status or my image will love me. No, they might end up with some people who are willing to be in friendship and relationship with them for these other reasons, not because of the truth of it being about love. And eventually they might see the truth of it, or they might not. And they might live in the illusion the whole time and want to stay in denial that some of the people who they align with don't really have their best interests, don't want them to be more independent, don't want them to love and believe in themselves. There's always like bigger fish in the sea. Oh, you're kind of more defensive, whatever. Hey, you're my kind of person. Yeah, I want to be in a relationship, whether they're male or female. It's just that emotionally, this is their truth too. And then they will be in a relationship with someone more like themselves in their own way, kind of a little bit more about themselves for these things of the world. because they have yet to learn to invest in loving themselves to believe they deserve justice. So they settle for these other things that by worldly standards look good, and I guess that's good enough for them. They'll settle not for truth and justice and settle for these things of the world. So there you go, Sagittarius. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.